but it's giving me kumquat vibes. Not my favorite. Yeah. Hi everybody, what's up? It's July here on Long Island, New York, and I'm going to show you every single palm tree I'm growing. I actually don't know how many palm trees I have, but I know it's dozens, so we're going to find out together. First part of the video, I'm going to go through my tropical palm trees, and then at the end, I'll show you the cold-tolerant palm trees that I'm trying to overwinter. Now, these are just the palms that are in my backyard here on Long Island. I also have a garden at my parents' house on Staten Island, which is where I grew up, and a lot of those palm trees have been with me since high school. So let me flip the camera around. We're going to show you the patio first. Alrighty, so like I mentioned, I actually don't know exactly how many palm trees I have, so I'm doing a quick scan around the patio, and here is our first palm tree. It is a Rhapis, a lady palm. I actually got this palm tree back in 2017. I was in Florida at the time, and I actually planted it in my backyard, and then I dug it up because I didn't want to leave it behind. So what I love about the Rhapis palm is that it's pretty cold tolerant. This did survive 20-degree temperatures without any problems in Florida. It is also very slow growing and probably one of the best palm trees for an indoor situation. You can see some of the fronds here are a little bit damaged from the sun, but overall, it's a really easy, low-maintenance plant. I do believe that mine has flowered in the past, but I don't see any flowers on it right now. I have a pretty nice bromeliad growing inside the container just to sort of complete the look, and it has lots of thin, kind of hairy trunks that makes it look a little bit like a windmill palm, but like a really skinny trunk. And it pups, so it keeps on producing babies, which also helps with its cold tolerance. It's a zone 9 palm, but if you have like a zone 8B winter where it drops below 20 degrees, it might still survive. Speaking of survival, whoopsie daisy, this palm not looking so good right now. This is really one of the hardest palm trees in the world to grow when you live outside of the tropics. In the tropics, it's very easy to grow. It's a licuala grandis. Temperatures below 50 degrees. Almost a death sentence for this palm tree, especially if it's prolonged. I've seen some pretty nice ones in Miami. I haven't seen any in Orlando of the grandis variety. There are some licualas that are a little bit more cold tolerant. So what's really cool about this palm tree is that the leaves are fused together, kind of like this. You can see that they're heavily damaged right now. I don't know why. This is about the worst that this palm tree has ever looked. It went through a lot of mealybug issues inside the house during the winter time, and I think that really kind of knocked it out. But there is a new leaf coming up. I've had it looking really good in the past, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's alive, so I'm grateful for that. Really recommend you look back at my old video that I took back in May if you don't know or aren't familiar with the Flamethrower palm tree. Actually, I think I posted it in June, but that newest leaf was turning red in the month of May, and it is my favorite palm tree on this patio. It handles indoor conditions really well. I've had it since 2018, so it's lived in Florida, lots of success down there, in South Carolina, no problems up there, and also, of course, here. So I've had it for many years. It grows about one new frond a year, but these new fronds are so massive. I'm trying to put myself in the video just to give you some perspective about how massive this palm tree is. So I love the really bold and glossy foliage on this. I love that it turns red, but even if it didn't turn red, it's just a really nice palm tree. The trunk is so tropical. So some palm trees have what's called a crown shaft. So it doesn't just have that rough trunk, but right above the rough trunk is this really beautiful kind of sheaf of leaves where the base of the leaves are, and it creates what's called a crown shaft. So this palm tree just has a really nice crown shaft. Some varieties actually have speckles on it that make it look like a watermelon, and that's why it's sometimes called a watermelon palm. Underneath this is my Trachycarpus Fortunei Wagnerianus. This was once classified as a totally separate Trachycarpus palm. It is technically a cold-tolerant palm tree, but I have it in a container, so we'll include it in a tropical spot. But it is just as cold-tolerant as a windmill palm. This is a less common Trachycarpus, so of course we know Fortunei, which is the windmill palm tree, but this one is called Trachycarpus latisectus, also known as the Windermere palm tree. So what makes this kind of different is the fronds, firstly, have this really pretty upright habit and a kind of fuzzy white sort of sheaf. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous because there's a yellow jacket nest like 2 feet away from me right now, so I'm trying not to rock the boat, so to speak. But I've had this palm tree since it was a seedling in 2018, and it's been a really fun one to grow. You can see the trunk isn't quite as hairy as a windmill palm. It's not as cold tolerant as a windmill palm, but it's seen frost without any problems. It's cold tolerant to about 20 degrees or so before we start getting some damage. Okay, and so I did mention that I have a issue with yellow jackets. It's actually inside this old man palm tree. It's growing in the pot, that wasp nest. Old man palm trees are a Coccothrinax. This is native to Cuba. The trunk has really, really long hairs, kind of like an old man's beard, and the fronds are just so gorgeous. I've had this plant for many years now, I think since 2018 as well. It sat in my yard in Florida, in South Carolina on my porch, and now it's here in beautiful, beautiful New York. And it's, you know, probably would prefer it to be a little hotter during the summertime, but it's doing okay. It doesn't have as many fronds as it had when I was living in the South, but you see a new frond is unfurling, and it, all in all, pretty good. Now we're going into the shade garden to show you a couple of interesting tropical palms. We have this Chamaedorea ernesti-augustii. I love when palm fronds have a fused frond like this. I think it's so cool, so unusual. I'm going to show you another unusual palm frond in a minute, actually 2 more, but this one is just so easy. Like most Chamaedorea, it's really low maintenance. It just chills in the house. This one is actually very deceptive. You wouldn't even think this is a palm tree. This palm tree is very severely sunburned, but you can see how beautiful the trunk is. I'll show you the sunburn in a minute, but it's got these really nice rings on it. But as you can see, the fronds are pretty sunburnt right now. This is a good example of what the new leaf should look like. No damage on this newest leaf, but then some of the ones that just, you know, came from being inside the house over the winter do have that sun damage on it. So, you know, pretty interesting palm tree. Maybe not my favorite. I do have a Chamadorea Microspadix growing in a container over here. This actually grew from seed from the mama plant that I'll show you in a few minutes. So this Chamadorea Microspadix is very cold tolerant. Just like my other Chamaedorea ernesti-augustii, it is very tolerant of indoor life, but also lots of shade outside will do it well. This one's actually not a palm tree, and it's not looking so hot right now, but it is a, whoop, look at all of that. Oh my gosh. Gotta keep an eye out for my orchids. They're getting absolutely drowned. So this is a Panama Hat Palm, but it's actually more closely related to a calathea, and so it's not really a palm tree, but it does look very much like one. It's struggling a little bit right now. It always looks awkward this time of the year. I think I'm actually going to put it in some more sunlight, and it'll probably perform better. Part sun is really what it prefers, but you can see it's unfurling some new fronds, and again, not actually a palm tree, but most people would consider it one. This is a Joey palm, a very slow palm that just looks magnificent as it gets older. These fronds, although they look juvenile, are adult. And do you see like the unusual shape on them? It actually is doing pretty well. There's very minimal burn on the fronds, so it seems to do pretty well inside the house during the winter time. It's just very, very slow growing. I've had this palm tree since 2018, so it's almost 10 years old before you know it, and it grows 1 new frond a summer, and these fronds are not big. So, but it is pretty. It's a really beautiful palm, and like I was trying to say before I lost my train of thought, these fronds are never going to become adult. They just get bigger and bigger, and they stay fused like this, and they can get like 5-6 feet tall, so it's really impressive when it's mature. And maybe by the time it's mature, I'll live in a warmer climate. This is my rescue Adonidia palm. It's actually looking okay right now. It overwinters pretty well inside the house. I have my orchids hanging on it and some bromeliads. Like this little cutie, not hanging on it, but it is pretty cute. And then I have some of the other ones just hanging on this. So since it's a rescue, I would say probably not my best looking palm tree, but it looks pretty cool, and it helps really add a little tropical flair to the pond area. Not as much as my Fishtail Palm though. I got this at a local plant sale. A greenhouse was giving it away, and that's really the only way you're ever going to find a fishtail this large. I love Caryota. I hope I'm pronouncing the genus right. But this is just such an unusual type of tree. The fronds are, it's hard to describe what they really remind me of. To me, they almost remind me of like bamboo. Look at this palm frond. Have you ever? This is one frond. Really unusual plant. And it's a pupper. It makes lots of babies. This is a smaller palm frond, just to give you an idea of what it looks like when it's a little smaller. And I just love it here. It gets not a lot of sun, enough for my flowering maples to bloom, but not too much sun over here. And you can see a little bit of sun damage. That's just the nature of it. Again, I did get a really good deal on that palm tree, and I'm hoping that as the summer goes on, it'll look a little bit less awkward. I have a Spindle Palm. This is a great palm tree too. I actually missed another Dypsis palm, my triangle palm tree, so I'm going to get to that one in a second. But what's cool about spindles is that they eventually develop a nice, weird kind of almost champagne flute shape to the trunk. So the trunk is really skinny on top, and then it gets nice and thick just at the bottom. So let me show you my triangle palm tree right here. This is another very cold tolerant palm. When I lived in North Florida, there was a fantastic triangle palm that survived 20 degrees. It was alive and well. But the difference is down in Florida, 20 degrees doesn't last very long. It still gets warm in between, but it is a very cold tolerant palm, and it could survive a zone 9A in a mild climate. Mine has seen temperatures close to frost and freezes, and then it goes inside the house. Really unusual because it has this almost two-dimensional look to it, and that's, you can kind of see the triangular shape, so I guess that's why they call it a triangle palm. My Bismarckia, I got this at a local nursery, and it was kind of, you know, dying this spring. The new frond emerged, and it was dead. I was really nervous because when you see a frond like this coming out of the middle, you just assume the whole entire thing is rotten. And when you have silver palm trees like this one, it's sometimes really hard to tell if it's damaged or if it's just healthy, because you can see, so this is an example of a damaged frond, and it's really hard to differentiate where the live tissue is and where the dead tissue is. You see the edges are kind of dead and then the middle is alive, but the most important thing is this is alive and well. So we see this new frond is growing, and it looks like it's a little damaged, but it's not dead, I don't think. This is one of my favorite lady palm trees because it's variegated. Some of the leaves are a little bit sunburnt and damaged, but you can see that variegation is just stunning, especially on the new growth. The new growth is just coming out fantastic. It actually lost some of its variegation. I've had like a lot of green, and it looks like it's starting to get it back. This is such an easy indoor palm, outdoor palm. It's so easy. See, like this is a totally green frond, so I need to keep an eye out for that. But you see, the following frond was variegated, so that one's older and it was green, and this one's variegated. So it looks like it's back to being a variegated palm tree, but if it wasn't, I would have to cut off the stems that are totally green, because the green grows more vigorously. This is a dwarf palm. I've had it for a really long time, and it really doesn't get any bigger than this. And it's just like so cool, isn't it? I mean, it's just a great example of a variegated plant. Most palm trees look kind of sickly when they're variegated, but the lady palm really doesn't. It's just grassy and pretty. Look at this new one coming up. This is totally like almost cream, and that's it. So really exciting plant. I've had it for a long time now, and it's doing pretty well. All things considered, I really don't take great care of it. I actually didn't water it like the entire winter. It was sitting on the like top of my bedroom where I couldn't access it because I have like kind of like the 1990s situation where you would put a TV on the top of your bedroom and it's like above the ceiling. That's where this plant was. Wasn't getting a lot of sun, wasn't getting a lot of water. but all things considered, looks pretty good, right? So, easy plant. All right, we are almost done with the tropical palms, and then I'm gonna get to those cold-tolerant ones. This is an unusual variety right behind me. It's a Gausia princeps, also known as a Cuban princess palm. It kind of has a bottle-like shape to it. This is a triple palm. It doesn't really grow very fast. Typically, this is a single stem plant, and this one, as a triple, I don't know, I think seems to struggle a little bit more than it would if it was just a single stem one. But I get about a frond a year from each one of those trunks, and I'm getting the first one now. As you can see, it's starting to unfurl, and that's gonna really help thicken it up a bit. This one is really tiny, this new frond, and I don't really know exactly what's going on, but you see the following one is getting a little bigger, so I don't know, there's some hope that things are starting to come back to life on this one. But it's a pretty interesting palm tree. Of course, you saw a video about this. This is my mule palm. Mule palm trees are amazing. They're a hybrid between a pindo and a queen palm, which are both considered pretty cold tolerant. And so this has survived snow and temperatures down to 20 degrees when I lived in Florida. This particular one, though, I bring into the garage when it's below 25 degrees, but it does spend the whole winter in the garage. It kind of has a coconut palm-like look to it. I love the trunk. The trunk is really thick and beautiful. Look at that trunk. Isn't that so pretty? Really, really cool. And the arching fronds are really nice. Like, compare this to a queen palm, which is one of the parents of this hybrid. So there's a pindo palm, and the queen palm is what makes this palm a reality. And I mean, the queen palm is just so much kind of rattier looking. It's not as disease or cold resistant. Of course, I have one because, I don't know, I think they're kind of pretty. A lot of people don't like queen palms, but I think they're unusual enough to grow up here. And it's easy. I just put it in the garage during the winter time as well. It's pretty cold tolerant, down to the mid-20s, but it's not that cold tolerant that you could really keep it outside all winter here. So I just put it in the garage, but it's doing pretty well. So these are my little triplets. Big palm trees right in the front of the house. I have a Livistona chilenensis. I'm going to overwinter one of these in the ground this year. They're pretty cold tolerant. They do start to show damage to their fronds when it gets down to about 25 or so, but their actual cold tolerance is about 20 degrees, and they grow new fronds really fast. You could see some of the damage from last year because I had it out in the snow, but the new fronds are coming in great, so I'm just going to cut those old damaged parts off, and you'll be good to go. This is a sun-damaged Chamaedorea Microspadix. So I showed you the baby seedling from these plants. These plants produce viable seeds. I've had them for several years now. They're called bamboo palms, and they're surprisingly cold hardy, and they're very shade tolerant, and they really prefer the shade. You would never guess a palm that looks this tropical is cold tolerant, but it has survived snow, and it can handle temperatures down to 20 degrees, no problem at all. And I keep it outside for a really good chunk of the winter, and it always looks good. The problem is when it starts getting too sunny, you start getting damage on the fronds. So like this is totally damaged, and we can clean this up another time. It's definitely a palm that needs to be cleaned up. Even in Florida, when I see these in the landscape, like it needs to be cleaned, or else it looks a little ratty. All right, this is not a palm tree, it's a cycad, but we're going to talk about it anyway. This is an unusual one. It's not your typical sago palm, which is Cycas revoluta. This is a Cycas panzahuensis. Not an easy one to pronounce. Some people call it the Panzahua sago palm. I don't know. What I do know is that this is a hybrid between a sago palm and that more unusual species that I was just struggling to pronounce a bit. And I really did not see a lot of growth from this the first few years. I got it in 2022 from Plant Delights as a seedling, and this is the first year that I think it's really starting to grow well. It's got hybrid vigor, which means that it's faster than both of its parents. This is one of the parents. This is a sago palm, which is a really common sago. It's a common cycad, and you can see it's just starting to flush now. These are like pine trees. They produce a flush of leaves, in this case fronds, once or twice a year. And this sago palm produces its flush a lot later than the hybrid does, and the hybrid might produce it twice. So they're both pretty cold tolerant. I've never really tested its cold tolerance, but they go in the garage during the winter time and they're totally fine. There's not even any damaged leaves on these, so this is a really, really easy plant to grow, because you saw some of my palm trees do have some damaged leaves. All right, so speaking of damage, let's talk about cold hardy palm trees. I lost a lot of them in my backyard here on Long Island this year, but at my parents' yard, I had no problem. Windmill palms, my unprotected sable minor was fine at my parents' house, so it's just luck of a draw. But I had to replace the windmill palm in my front yard because it rotted. This is one that was growing in a container that I would put in the garage, and since the one that was here in the ground rotted, I just swapped it out, and it's, you know, looking okay so far. It's coming along. Those new fronds are coming in really nicely. The one that is in my backyard actually got less protection than the one that was in my front yard. Now again, the one in my front yard is dead and gone. This is the replacement. But the one that was in the backyard was exposed to at least 13 degrees back in December and got a lot less protection. Ooh, by the way, it looks like this is ripe enough to eat. Yummy. Should I eat it now? This is a calamondin, I believe is how we pronounce it. I've never eaten these before. Calamondin. It took a year for this to ripen. I don't know how to eat it. I'm just gonna eat it like a kumquat with like this, with the rind and everything. That's not how you eat most citrus, but it's giving me kumquat vibes. Mmm. It says that that fruit's supposed to taste like lime and orange, and I'm definitely getting a lot of lime. I don't think it's bad, it's just maybe not something that I would eat fresh. Like, that's something that I would put in a drink. Anyway, let me go show you my upper windmill palm. We're going to cold hardy palm trees now. This one survived the winter. Again, I protected it less than the one that was in the front yard, but it did do better because it's alive, and the other one isn't alive. So, let me show you though, because it doesn't look perfect. You can see the damage with the new fronds. So this was the first new frond of the season opening up, and you can see there's like nothing here. It was totally damaged. This is the second one, starting to get a little bit bigger, but still damaged. This is the third one, still not as big as it should be, but getting bigger. So, you know, the whole plant, you know, as a whole, looks all right. Not my favorite, but it's gonna look good by the end of the season because it's growing fronds really quickly right now. It's got 4 fronds so far this year. 4th one is coming up now, and it's only July. So at this rate, especially since it's starting to grow faster, we might get like 4 more. So it's gonna be pretty big by the end of the year. So that's one of my hardy palms. I have a new sable minor. So with my sable minor gone, I wanted to try 2 different varieties of sable minor. This one is the Arkansas variant. So this variant comes from a cold tolerant population in Arkansas. You can see it's just a young seedling, just a couple of strap leaves on it. And we'll see how big it gets, but it's gonna have to be very heavily protected, especially at this size, because I mean, literally I have grass right now that is taller than this palm tree. So very small, very young still, and that does mean it is less cold tolerant until it starts to mature. This next one's actually growing in a pretty weird spot. So these are the stairs up to my backyard, and very, very sunny west exposure here is my sable Tamaulipas. So that is from the states. I don't know for sure if that's what they call it. If they call it states, territories, whatever it is in Mexico, right on the border of Texas. This variant of sable minor, although they're not sure if it's a sable minor for sure, it's just classified as sable Tamaulipas, and it's supposed to be pretty cold tolerant and hopefully heat tolerant too. I am seeing some damage on these greenhouse grown leaves, but the new leaf is coming in strong. So this is a really hot sunny spot of the garden. So I originally had the sable minor over here, but the way the wind would just like hit all of the snow on it, it got crushed to death. There's no question about it. The snow was just so heavy here. It was unbelievable. And we didn't get a lot of snow, so I was really surprised to see that. By the way, whew, look at these lilies and look at that beautiful Musa AA banana. Things are really looking good. But we're talking about palm trees, and this is my replacement. I'm keeping it over here. I think it's going to be a lot happier. This is a Washingtona filifera. You can tell the difference between a filifera and a robusta. I learned this from some very smart people on I think it was the Zone Pushers Facebook group, where people grow like lots of different types of palm trees. So one way to know is these really fuzzy looking tendons, right? Like these little fuzzy things over here is a characteristic of a filifera. But another characteristic, which is even more telling, is to look at the undersides where the leaf bases are. And if you see any red, then it's robusta. And of course, if the leaves are glossy and green, then it's probably robusta. And if you get really sharp spines, it's robusta. Sometimes filiferias also have rough spines when young, but this one might have a little bit of robusta in it because they do hybridize with each other very readily. So we'll see. So why is this important? Robusta is a little less cold tolerant, but filiferias are less water tolerant. They don't like as much moisture. So there's a big difference in what these palm trees can tolerate when it comes to ultimate cold tolerance. But I'm excited because Filiferia is more cold tolerant overall, but it does need to stay dry or else it is